34-17. Giants will get the football to start the second half. Our first half numbers brought to you by DirecTV.
Well, you look at how productive New Orleans has been offensively. I mean, 315 yards in one half of football is really remarkable. We saw that last week with the Giants offense against that Oakland defense, but for the Saints to do it against a defensive unit that, you know, by everyone's account, you'd say, you know, this is a good defensive team. But the thing that the Saints have done a great job of is protecting Drew Brees. He's had very little pressure.
Dixon's had a couple of big returns already in the game today. And brings the opening half or second half kickoff out to the 28-yard line. Let's go downstairs to Pam Oliver. Pam.
Well, Tom, the Giants quietly trudged into the locker room after that humiliating first half. My question to Tom Coughlin was, what do you change defensively? He says, we just got to get pressure on Drew Brees. He also said they're doing some nice things on play action, that we've got to do a better job of defending. We were in position on a couple of those touchdown throws. He said just didn't make any plays.
Pam, thank you.
Well, I guess the best thing right now is that at least the Saints didn't get the ball to start the second half.
And the Giants get Brandon Jacobs back into the game. You may remember he had to leave in the second quarter after suffering a stinger in the shoulder neck area.
Yeah, he had that stinger and then he got banged up, you know, last week in Oakland, and that's kind of an ongoing thing with Brandon Jacobs because of his style of play. And you know, here's a running back, a big physical guy, as we know, but he has not yet made it through a 16-game schedule, you know, without having to miss some time, and that's why the backup, Ahmad Bradshaw, becomes even more important.
Jacobs again, nowhere to go. Shanley was there, initially slowed down due to the penetration of Tracy Porter from the corner.
I'll tell you, there was a lot of guys there, and Will Smith does a great job of really extending this play out towards the sideline, 91. And then as he widens them, the linebackers there with Shanley and Velma, they're able to come up and make a play. And Will Smith, healthy for the first time. You know, last year he was banged up pretty good that a lot of people didn't know about. Had a less than productive year, but he's playing well this year.
Play clock down to 3. They just do get it off. Manning looking down the field and overthrows the intended target, Dominic Hickson. Flag down right around the 40-yard line, which would be roughly 5 yards down the field from the first down marker. Saints are saying it's against the Giants.
Yeah, so is Roman Harper.
Pass interference, offense number 87. A pick. A penalty is declined. Brings up fourth down.
Well, Dominic Hickson's on the outside. They're going to switch release this, so there's the contact. And I guess that's where the flag came in, and I disagree with that. That's just Hickson trying to get up the field, and Steve Smith was going to the outside, and that would be called a natural picking action. I don't agree with that call.
Jeff Fiegels in his 22nd year out of Miami. Low line drive to the near sideline, and Reggie Bush picks it up and it's hammered at the 25. Brees and company had 6 possessions in the first half, scored 5 touchdowns. They'll get it in a moment.
Today's game on Fox is sponsored by Southwest Airlines. Go to southwest.com, grab your bag, it's on. By Visa. Visa debit is easier than cash. More people go with Visa. And by Ford. Drive one.
A 3-and-out stop for the Saints to begin the second half. And now Drew Brees in this offense after racking up 315 total yards of offense and 34 points in the first 30 minutes. Get it for the first time in the second stanza.
Encroachment, defense number 98. 5-yard penalty. First down.
Mentioned Sean Payton in his 4th year as head coach of the Saints. His first year, they advanced all the way to the NFC Championship game. The last 2 years failing to reach the playoffs, but a 0-3 record following a bye week. So he decided to change things up a little bit.
Well, whatever they did, it worked.
Brees looking for Henderson and batted away by C.C. Brown.
Hey, Tom, I'm wondering if Drew Brees had to ice that arm down at halftime. I mean, as much as they threw it and as well as he threw it, awfully impressive. Finally, you know, they take a shot down the field, and you've got C.C. Brown in good position to make a play. And I got to tell you, I mean, you look at the Giants defensively, and I mean, that's a heck of a defensive front. When they're not getting pressure, they have some problems everywhere else on the field. But you know, against Dallas, they gave up over 200 yards rushing. What's happened here today, you start to question just how good is this defense really.
Here, Thomas on 2nd down. Picks up a yard. It'll bring up 3rd and 4. Well, going into the game, the trio of Tuck, Umenyiora, and Kiwanuka had combined for 9 sacks, just those 3 alone. Not a single sack of Drew Brees so far here today.
Yeah, and I think you look at the last 2 weeks, and they got 11 of those sacks in those games. And against Dallas and against Tampa Bay, they didn't have any sacks. But I'm not so much worried about the sacks in this game. They just haven't gotten any pressure on them.
A little bit of pressure that time, and wouldn't you know it, catch is made, and are they saying he was out of bounds?
Yeah, it was a force out, but there is no such rule any longer. And I like that the league took that out, because it just removed a lot of the gray area for these officials in trying to determine whether or not the feet would have come down in the field of play. A good job there defensively by the Giants, needing to make a stop. The offense wasn't able to do anything on their first possession of this second half, and not to give up points was big.
Well, the first time we have seen Thomas Morstead punt in the game today. And he puts a charge into this one. All the way back to the 7-yard line. Nixon turns the corner. Out across the 30 and out to the 35. He has certainly made an impact in the game today. Returning kicks and punts. Drew Brees, well, at one point when you hit on 15 in a row, you get frustrated when you miss on a pass. Eli Manning and the Giants, a 1st and 10 from their own 35, trailing 34-17. Manning being chased by Grant, throws on the run and makes a nice throw to Steve Smith.
Boy, he sure does, because he got flushed out of the pocket, and to be able to move out to his right and deliver the ball, you know, like he did, the accuracy here on this throw. And this is really what we've been seeing from Eli, you know, throughout this season, right on the money there. And Steve Smith, I got to tell you, to me, he's been one of the big stories in the league through the first 5 weeks of the season. You know, he's leading the league in receptions and yards, and it is not a surprise, because this guy's got some real skills.
Good enough for a first down on the give to Ahmad Bradshaw. Nearly an entire half still to play here in New Orleans, and even though the Saints have clearly dominated this game so far, the Giants find a way to stick one in the end zone on this drive. They're down 10 and a lot of time left.
No question, and I think that, you know, this offense has got to feel pretty good still. I mean, they've got 17 points. They got to feel good about some of the things that they're able to do. And then defensively, I think that last stop was key for them and starting to gain a little confidence themselves.
Put it in the hands of the rookie Hakeem Nicks, a #1 pick out of North Carolina. Last week he led the Giants, 4 receptions for 49 yards and a 9-yard touchdown.
I mean, isn't it interesting coming into this season? The big question mark was this wide receiving core of the New York Giants and how well they would do. And they really were looking for a third receiver. Somebody had to step up. And they were hoping that'd be Mario Manningham, which it has been. But he's not the third guy any longer. He's number 2.
Bradshaw cuts it back the other way. That's a good run for a first down to the 39.
Looked like there might have been some movement early, you know, on the Saints. Didn't get the call, but that was all Ahmad Bradshaw. Saints did a nice job of bottling that up, but he's just so quick and so hard to see behind that line that he was still able to get the first down when really there wasn't much there.
Kareem McKenzie, by the way, left with an injured groin. The Giants' right tackle in the opening half. Manning intercepted by Jabari Greer. And again, Manning under heavy pressure. And just threw it up for grabs, and Greer went to get it.
But you see Eli Manning talking to Ahmad Bradshaw. That's the concern, is protection. He was thinking that Ahmad Bradshaw would pick up Harper. He did not. Forced him to throw the ball earlier than he wanted to. Interception.
.21 to play in the third quarter. New Orleans in front 34-17 after the turnover a moment ago by Eli Manning. Jabari Greer getting the interception. First and 10 Saints from their own 29. This is Pierre Thomas. Cuts it back to the inside and picks up a yard.
Go back and take a look at the interception, and Roman Harper is going to come here on the blitz, and you've got Ahmad Bradshaw. He's supposed to pick that up, but he goes the opposite way. You're going to see at the end of this. So Eli's thinking it's going to be protected at the last minute. He's got to throw it much sooner than what he wanted to. And you can obviously see why Eli Manning would be as frustrated as what he is.
Brees finds Colston, soft spot in the middle of the field. And he's close to a first down out to the 38-yard line.
You know, that's not to absolve Eli Manning of any responsibility either, though. I mean, when you see that and you do have someone in your face, you recognize that it did not get picked up as it was supposed to. Then you can't just float one up there either and allow a guy to make an easy interception.
Third down and a yard. And it's a first down on the give to Reggie Bush. This is something the Saints offense has not done in a long time, really since Deuce McAllister was healthy and a regular part of their backfield, and that's run the football and run it well, and this year run it frequently. These two teams are two of only 4 in the NFL that actually run the ball more frequently than they throw the ball.
Hard to believe with the Saints, isn't it?
Yep. Really hard to believe. Well, they like throwing it too. And why wouldn't you? Colston all the way down to the 34-yard line. He is having a monster game.
This goes back to what we were talking about, what they do in practice. Now, he didn't have to throw this on his back shoulder, and I don't think Drew Brees was trying to. But because they work on these types of throws all week long, that's second nature. I mean, there's a lot of receivers in this league that would have a hard time making that type of catch. But you go and watch them practice during the week, and on Friday, they do it routinely.
Colston 135 receiving yards. Of course, he's out of Hofstra. Well, you talk about a pickup. That one incomplete.
That might be the worst pass I've ever seen Drew Brees throw. that thing wasn't even close. But I will tell you, the wide receiving core for the Saints it's an impressive group. Not a lot of people could probably name you 2 guys that play wide receiver for this team. I go back to last year. Drew Brees threw the ball for 5,000 yards. and not one guy on their team had 1,000 yards received.
Amazing.
It's a very unselfish group. You talk to the coaches, they say they won't say 4 words amongst them. And they just go out and play. They love playing. They do a great job of it. It makes it easy on Group Brees.
Hard running by Mike Bell down to the 31-yard line.
You know, in fact, Sean Payton was talking about it. He said the challenge that he has is during the week, because he does have so many good players in that wide receiving room, that the challenge for him is trying to come up with some plays for each guy when you're putting in the offensive game plan on Wednesday, so that they can all get a little excited about what their role is going to be in that given week. And that is a challenge. When the game plan gets put in on Wednesday, everybody immediately looks to see, all right, well, what plays am I going to get? And you got to give enough of them to each of those players so that they don't start sulking.
Timeout on a 3rd and 7. A pass defense for the Giants. Now you got to remember the teams they have played, and you hate to keep going back to that, but you know the numbers don't lie. 1 win among the last 3 teams they faced. Romo had some big turnovers in the game, but threw the ball rather effectively in the win over Dallas in week 2.
Defense number 85, 5-yard penalty. It's 3rd down.
So now 3rd and 7 goes to 3rd and 12 after the early start by David Thomas.
And Tom, the Giants defensively knew they knew what they had been facing, you know, and they knew that the offenses and the passing games of those teams wasn't all that great, but they dominated them, and they did what they should have done against weaker opponents. And we knew, and they knew coming into this game, that facing Drew Brees is going to be a real challenge.
3rd and 12 blitz coming. Jump ball for Colston. He's got it inside the 5. Flags comes down. The question is, did Colston go out of bounds and then come back in to make the catch? Yes, he did. Barry Anderson, the side judge.
Illegal touching by the offense, number 12. The player stepped out of bounds, and then he came back in, reestablished, and was the first to touch the ball. That's a 5-yard penalty. Repeat, 3rd down.
3rd and 7 all of a sudden has gone to 3rd and 17 after back-to-back penalties. And well, right now the Saints are out of field goal range.
Well, the Giants can't afford to give up any more points. I mean, really, if they're gonna have a chance. There's 6 minutes left in the 3rd quarter, and if the Saints are able to get any kind of points here, it's going to be awfully tough on the Giants based on what we've seen of New Orleans defensively. And they've made it hard on this Giants offense also.
I'm right here, Peter.
Need to get to the 24-yard line to convert. And right there for a first down is Lance Moore. So they convert on 3rd and 17.
I just don't think you can play these guys zone coverage when you're not getting any more pressure. You see the linebackers were all at about 8 yards deep. Well, they had to go 17 yards for a first down. There was no reason not to get underneath those intermediate throws of Lance Moore. Instead, they play shallow, and they open up just a cavern there in the middle for Lance Moore to be able to complete that pass.
300-yard passing day now for Drew Brees. On the ground to Pierre Thomas. He pushes the pile inside the 15, down to the 12. 32nd career 300-yard passing game for Drew Brees. 26 of the 32 have come as a Saint.
A lot was talked about over the last 2 games. He hadn't even thrown for 200 yards. Did not have a touchdown in either of those previous 2 games. And everybody's wondering, hey, Drew Brees isn't playing so well. Well, you know, they were able to win some games they wouldn't have been able to win in previous years with a running game and great defense. I don't think anybody should have been too worried about Drew Brees.
Play action to Bush. Wide open. Touchdown, Colston.
Kevin Dockery was in coverage, and he was nowhere to be found. They go play action again. They've had a lot of success with this in this ball game, and he comes outside to Colston. Now, I'm not sure what Dockery was doing.
Good by Carney. We still have 4:10 to play in the third quarter, and the Saints marching in the Superdome over the Giants. Marcus Colston, 7 receptions, 147 receiving yards, and now a touchdown. The 6th different Saint to score a touchdown in this game. Man.
I think that's what the Giants are saying. Man.
Dominic Kingston. Clobbered at the 21 by Courtney Roby.
You go back and take a look at that touchdown, and you're going to see C.C. Brown, 41. He comes up, and on the outside, Kevin Dockery actually thought he was going to have safety help. That's why he let him go, and that's why Colston was as open as what he was.
So it's easy to get on the DBs of the Giants with all these passing yards, but generally for the Giants, they're able to keep other teams from throwing the ball all over the field because of pressure.
12 men in the huddle offense, 5-yard penalty. It's first down.
Well, there has been 0 pressure on Drew Brees today.
Well, and that's really been the bottom line, Tom. I mean, when you talk about the Giants defensively and what they've been about, it's always been about the pressure that they've been able to get on the quarterback, and if they're not doing that, they've got problems, especially when they're as thin as what they are.
Pitching to Bradshaw. He beats a tackler and carries out to the 22. Let's go back to Los Angeles. Game break time to Kurt Menefee.
Well, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers hadn't scored a kick return touchdown in the first 31 years as a franchise, but suddenly they've got 3 over the last 3 seasons. Sammy Stroughter, 97-yarder, pulls them to within 7 of Carolina in the fourth quarter. Tom, Troy, and Pam, that's about the only thing the Saints haven't done in your game is return one for a score.
Well, you look at the NFC South, Saints undefeated, trying to stay that way. Atlanta, we'll see them next Sunday in Dallas. Second down reception by Nicks.
Talked about Eli Manning coming back home. You know, he grew up about 2.5 miles from the Superdome here and came to the games with Archie when Archie was doing the broadcast for the New Orleans Saints radio broadcast. And you know, this dome has not been good to a lot of people. You know, I started my career here as a rookie in '89 and didn't have much success. There's Archie Manning right there and his family, Olivia and daughter-in-law.
You're not going to meet a better guy than Archie Manning.
Well, that's for sure. Great family.
Yep.
Every GM around the league wishes they'd had more sons.
Eli putting it up. Contact made. No flag. Slightly underthrown. Roman Harper right there with Nicks. And it's 3 and out for the Giants.
They're just trying to get something down the field, and you know, he had a step on him. He had him against Harper there, and Eli just was not able to get enough on it to get it out and hit him in stride.
So the Giants will punt it away. Reggie Bush stands back at his own 30. Eagles. Bush wrapped up immediately at the 33-yard line. Well, here coming in, this is clearly among the marquee, if not the marquee matchup in the entire NFL here in week 6. And Troy, if you're the Giants, you got to be wondering, what have we run into here with this New Orleans team?
Well, and I think they knew coming in this is going to be a tough game. As I said, this is a hard place to play, and this is a good football team with the New Orleans Saints. I know that the Saints, a lot of people, when you start talking about the good teams around the league, even though they had been undefeated, they weren't getting a lot of the recognition nationally. And I think they felt that this was a game, kind of a statement game for them, if you will, just showing a lot of people that they are, in fact, for real. I think a lot of people were questioning some of the teams that they had faced also.
Mike Bell on first down out to the 38-yard line. You look at the Saints, and he started the year against Detroit, a team that didn't win a game last year, but they certainly opened some eyes when you saw them going to Philadelphia in a dominant win there over the Eagles. And then in week 4, they played a red-hot New York Jets team here in the Dome, and even though their offense never really clicked in that game, they found a way to win to go to 4-0 before the bye week.
Yeah, but the quarterbacks that they had faced, Matthew Stafford making his first start, Kevin Cobb making his first start, Mark Sanchez making his 4th start as a rookie. I think this was the game they felt would really show them a lot.
Colston breaks out of 1 tackle, first down.
And from that standpoint, defensively for New Orleans, this is a game that kind of legitimizes them a little bit. And once again, Marcus Colston, finding that hole. This guy has really come on and been a great acquisition for this team. I mean, when you consider a 7th-round pick, and last year he missed some time because of injury, but his first 2 years in the league, to have over 1,000 yards receiving in those 2 seasons, 98 catches in 07. I mean, I don't know where you start when you start trying to shut down one of these wideouts.
Reggie Bush well behind the line of scrimmage. He's dropped all the way back at midfield. That'll be a loss of nearly 8.
That's about the only thing they haven't been able to do today is get Reggie Bush going. I think when you look at their running backs, I'm not so sure Reggie Bush shouldn't be playing wide receiver, to be quite honest with you. I've seen him do some things at the wide receiver position as far as releases that you just don't see many of the top wide receivers do. And as far as a running back, he's kind of been a non-factor as far as their running game and what they're doing with regards to that. He definitely has a skill set that they can use, but I don't know that it's running the football.
Play action, Brees letting it fly, and underthrown. Was under pressure was Brees. He had Devery Henderson headed to pay dirt.
Well, they're able to get some pressure on him this time with Justin Tuck. He's able to get in there just after Brees lets it go, and it's probably why Brees wasn't able to get enough on this ball, because Henderson runs the out and up, gets by Thomas, but Drew Brees, just with the pressure, not able to really step into that throw.
Boy, the 3rd time the entire game somebody's put a hit on Drew Brees. But that's nothing new for this offensive line. I mean, it doesn't matter who they play, they protect their quarterback. 3rd down. Crowd wanted a horse collar tackle. They're not going to get it. Fred Robbins brings down Reggie Bush.
Yeah, inline play between the tackles. No such thing as a horse collar on a running back.
So that's the end of the 3rd quarter. 41-17 New Orleans, and we're back after a word from your local Fox station. Two of 5 unbeaten teams colliding today in the Superdome. And it's been all home team with a quarter to play. passing yards for Drew Brees and the Saints, as that one is I think it hit in the end zone and then checked back up. Yep, touch back out to the 20. Been a rough homecoming for Eli Manning. We mentioned that Manning had never played in a Superdome. Both of his brothers played games here in high school, playing in state football championships. But Eli had never played here before. They had a game scheduled for, 4 years ago, and Katrina wiped that one out, moving the game to New York.
It's always been a hard place to play for opposing teams, and it's even more difficult when you're playing the Saints and they're as good as what they are this year. I mean, I have been really impressed with what I have seen, not just here today, but really of this New Orleans team, specifically the defense. We're here in the early going of 09.
With a quarter to go, batted in the air, incomplete.
You know, we talked about Gregg Williams coming in and the job that he's done. I mean, outside of Darren Sharper and getting a few more players healthy, the only difference on that side of the ball is this man right here, Gregg Williams. And the first thing that he wanted to fix was the secondary. They had given up the third most big plays, big passing plays in the NFL a year ago. This year, they've given up the second fewest. So he turned it around immediately from that standpoint. But more than anything, he brought some real toughness to this group. And that's something that they had lacked. This team defensively ranked in the bottom in virtually every category. And right now, they're near the top.
Manning throws it behind Manningham. Third down and 10. Of course, many believe Gregg Williams was going to be named the head coach of the Washington Redskins 2 years ago. He had been a head coach with Buffalo, was let go there, and then was the assistant head coach with the Redskins for 4 years. And then out of left field, they hired Jim Zorn after interviewing Williams, who wound up leaving the Redskins altogether.
Well, everything that's going on in Washington, I'm sure he's thrilled that he didn't get that job in Washington. Just like Sean Payton's thrilled he didn't take that head job in Oakland a few years ago.
Third down and 10. Eli, good protection. Crossing route. Nix has it inside the 40, down to the 30, and run out of bounds at the 20.
Well, they're finally able to stretch the defense a little bit by running Kevin Boss up the field, and then they get Nix underneath that. He was lined up on the outside, but they get Boss through the middle, get the safeties off the top, and then when you run Nix on the square end, it opened up a big lane. Of course, Steve Smith threw a little coverage also. One of the better pass plays we've seen from them today.
Throw is high. And Dominic Hickson.
And we're probably not seeing it as much as what we've seen in previous weeks from this Giants team, but I do like this wide receiving core. I think they're a good group. I really like Steve Smith and what he's been able to do on the outside. We knew he was a great slot receiver, but he's got great explosion. He's good in and out of breaks. Mario Manningham, Akeem Nix, Dominic Hickson when he's fully healthy. I mean, they got a good group. I think this is more a reflection on just how good this secondary is for the Saints.
Blitz coming. Try to get it into the hands of Brandon Jacobs. And he is thrown to the mat. And nearly some punches thrown there. A lot of jawing going on. Remy Adel and Brandon Jacobs. Not sure Adel ever knew that he didn't catch the ball.
I don't think that he did either, and I'm not sure who I would take in that fist fight. I mean, it looks to me like Brandon Jacobs maybe boxed somewhere before.
He talks about wanting to get in that fight game. Manning drops it off to Brandon Jacobs, and he is stopped at the 20. Fourth down, and Tom Coughlin going to go for it, down 41-17 with nearly a full quarter to play.
It kind of takes the decision making right out.
Today's Game on Fox is sponsored by Lipitor. By Ram, the truck that never backs down from a challenge. And by Bud Light, with the just right taste that's not too heavy, not too light, the difference is drinkability.
4th down and 8 for the Giants at the Saints 20.
We're showing another blitz by Roman Harper off the edge right here.
And here he comes. They pick him up. Catch made, and trying to lunge for a first down is Dominic Hickson, and he's got it right at the 10-yard line.
And that time they are able to block up Roman Harper, which gave Eli the time that was necessary in order to complete that pass. Ahmad Bradshaw picks him up, and a good catch there by Hickson.
First and goal for the Giants, trailing 41-17. Back to the end zone and batted away by Darren Sharper.
There's another one that old Sharper thought that he might have been able to get. I'll tell you, when you're throwing the corner routes, we saw it earlier in the ball game, when you're throwing the corner route against him when there's not much separation, that is a hard throw to make. You know, you leave all the angles then to the defender. And, you know, Sharper, in talking with him, you ask him, how come you've been able to make so many interceptions? Yeah, you're always around the ball. And he says, the big thing is I catch them. You know, other guys get opportunities, they just don't catch them. But he's had 2 chances here today that he's dropped.
Jump ball to Manningham. Overthrown. 3rd and goal. You know, we were talking to Sharper on Friday. He grew up in Richmond, Virginia, was a high school quarterback who went to William and Mary. So that tells you right from the get-go he wasn't a heavily recruited quarterback coming out of high school. He did play defensive back. He said, yeah, the coaches told me I'd get a chance to play quarterback at William and Mary.
You think if he'd have been recruited by Florida, he'd have gone to Florida? Is that what you're saying? Or maybe Michigan? Or
I don't know about
Ohio
Michigan.
State.
Yeah, there you go. He'd have told Michigan, no way. Back in the end zone again, incomplete. Sharper's closing ground on Manningham, 4th and goal. Now, he'd have probably played at UCLA, I think.
I would hope so. We could have used him. Well, it's a big play here, obviously. I mean, if the Giants have any chance, this is one they've got to be able to hit.
11th play of the drive, 4th and goal. Manning lofts it. What a catch made by Brandon Jacobs for the touchdown. Wow. Now flags are down right at the line of scrimmage. What a job by Eli Manning escaping trouble.
Yeah, usually when you have that, it might be an illegal man downfield offensive lineman. Like Sean O'Hara might have been down the field. We'll wait and get the call.
Holding, offense number 60. 10-yard penalty for 2 4th down.
Well, you called it, O'Hara on the hold. Sean's been a mighty good player for a long time.
Yes, he has. Last year going to his first Pro Bowl, well deserved.
I think Sean was saying it wasn't me, and the officials may have announced the wrong number.
Yeah, I initially thought that Sean O'Hara was actually downfield, and you can tell he certainly doesn't agree with the call. Now he's the center, number 60, and once the quarterback starts scrambling and they see that, they're not real certain then what he's going to do. If he's going to take off running or if he's going to pull up and throw, and he is downfield. But I didn't see a hole.
Oh, hang on.
Well, the Giants on 4th and goal backed up to the 20. They're going to go ahead and send out Tynes for the field goal try. A 38-yard attempt. And it is good. Brees will get back to work when we return. 12:09 to go, and the Saints leading big. A frustrating afternoon for Brandon Jacobs and the New York Giants. Still a long way to go and a 21-point spread. 12:09 to play in the final quarter. Saints guarding against the onside kick. Tynes kicks it away through the end zone. The Saints will get it into 20. O'Hara still discussing with the officials that holding call on him denying the touchdown.
Well, and the officials telling him that he saw him clutch the defender and grab him, and that's not the case. I mean, in fact, there wasn't an offensive lineman on the field that held anybody, so it wasn't even like they got the wrong number. Well, that was a big penalty. I mean, you're talking about the difference in 4 points, and they could. It's 17 points. I mean, this thing's a long way from being over with as much time as left's on the clock. I'm not sure what they saw on that one.
Saints going to burn some of that time and put it on the ground to Pierre Thomas. He gains 3 on first down. Tomorrow, it's game 3 of the American League Championship Series. The scene shifting to Anaheim. Yankees will send out Andy Pettitte against Jared Weaver. Coverage of game 3 in the ALCS begins tomorrow, 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific, in high def only on Fox. And certainly Alex Rodriguez escaping disappointing postseasons of the past so far for the Yankees here in 09.
Mr. October.
Him and Reggie, right?
If you don't remember Reggie, I guess you could say that.
Big gainer for Pierre Thomas. Out close to midfield. Pierre Thomas, an undrafted rookie free agent, signed 3 years ago.
Well, I think this is when that running game really comes in handy, when you're trying to end a ball game with a big lead and not having to rely on throwing the football in order to pick up first downs. This is a nice luxury that this New Orleans team now has.
Blackburn. He's excited about it. Rushing yards again for the Saints. They came in the second best rushing team in the NFL. And 113 rushing yards, 72 of them for Thomas.
In previous years, Tom, they were never going to be a team that piled up a lot of yards. It was more about yards per carry. And this year, looking at that, they have run the ball well in every game, whether it's total yards or yards per carry, however you want to really look at that information. The Saints have done a good job of running the ball all year.
Bell runs hard.
Well, he and Pierre Thomas are a little different style of guys, and you're right. Mike Bell is more of a downhill, physical type runner. To whereas Pierre Thomas, he's a little niftier guy. He's able to make some people miss, and yet he's got some power himself. He does a good job of finishing off some runs. So many times. I mean, I remember back when I was playing, Emmitt Smith was a 3-down back. I mean, we didn't have anybody else. In fact, a lot of times we barely even had a backup. And now it is so rare to see that in the league. You pretty much have to have 2 backs in today's game.
Looked like Barry Cofield jumped early. That'll give the Saints a first down if it's against him.
Encroachment defense, number 96. 5-yard penalty results in a first down.
You know, again, it goes to show you about good scouting or catching lightning in a bottle. I mean, there's a little bit of both. We talked about Pierre Thomas, an undrafted free agent coming out of Illinois. For Mike Bell, he was an undrafted player who signed with Denver in 2006. And that year he rushed for 677 yards. Only the 5th undrafted player going all the way back to 67 to rush for over 500 yards in a season.
Hey, it's over.
Then, of course, they wanted to turn him into a fullback. He wasn't happy about that in Denver. He got injured. Ultimately released by Denver, signed with Houston. And then a month later, they let him go. New Orleans signed him. He played in 4 games last year. And this year, he's turned out to be a huge pickup after Pierre Thomas was hurt the first 2 weeks of the season.
Well, you look at how important scouting is. How about Marcus Colston, a find in the 7th round? And it goes back to, remember when Mike Ditka was here and he traded the entire draft for Ricky Williams. And he said, well, those guys weren't going to make the team anyway. Well, yeah, they do. There's a lot of 7th rounders in this league. There's a lot of late round picks in this league that are making a lot of contributions.
Time to send it back to Los Angeles to Kurt Menefee for a game break.
Well, the Washington Redskins in deep trouble. Collins now in at quarterback after they benched Jason Campbell in the first half. Kamahali with a sack. Kansas City leads at 14-6, closing seconds. Looks like Chiefs will get their first win after losing 9 in a row. Tom?
What do you think Jim Zorn's going to be doing next weekend?
I'll tell you, I had the Redskins the last 2 weeks, and Zorn is such a good guy and a good man. Perhaps named a head coach a little prematurely after he had never been a coordinator. But man, life is tough on Jim Zorn. Life's pretty good for Drew Brees.
Today's game is sponsored by Sprint. This is the NFL Now, only from Sprint, the Now Network, official wireless service sponsor of the NFL.
This entire city, this entire region trying to get its legs back underneath it and really doing a nice job. Great hospitality here, the great food here. But after Hurricane Katrina and then shortly thereafter Hurricane Gustav, this town really starting to feel good about itself again, and especially about this football team. Completion to Robert Meacham inside the 5 down to the 1-yard line.
Kevin Dockery was in a great position, and then he just let up for whatever reason. I'm not real sure. He's playing it well. He's in a good spot, and then he just kind of got lost. And he started going backwards, and Meacham kept going. And I'll tell you, the Saints, they're keeping their foot on the pedal right now.
Grief has checked in as an extra big body along the offensive line. 1st and goal. They spotted at the 2. And timeout is called. Play clock winding down. 7:07 to play. Got a lot going on here. We thought the Saints had called a timeout when in fact they had not started the play clock correctly, so the Saints were not charged with a timeout. And then Tom Coughlin's going to challenge this catch by Meacham.
Yeah, if it's all a continuous act, then you do have to hold on to the ball as you go to the ground. But he does not make this catch as he's going to the ground. He takes a few steps and then he goes out of bounds, and it's once he's out of bounds that the ball actually becomes dislodged. And it's, I'm looking at it here saying that this should be ruled a completion.
I mean, at this point, if you're Tom Coughlin, why not?
Well, actually, it even looks like might have come loose before he even went out of bounds. And then the question would be, did the ball go through to the end zone? It didn't look like it did. That the Saints would still maintain possession.
I mean, Saints are standing there like they're ready to play football, and we're still waiting on.
Well, I don't think these guys are right here. They don't have their helmets on.
Still waiting on Ed Hockley. Still checking in with Tom Sifferman, the replay official today. Been a rough go for the New York Football Giants on this Sunday in New Orleans. Gave up over 300 yards of offense in the first half. The Saints are knocking on the door at 500 yards of offense, 7 yards shy of that.
The Saints have kind of done to the Giants today what the Giants have been doing to some other teams the last few weeks.
Now the decision.
The receiver caught the pass, took 3 steps, and then was tackled. He lost the ball while being tackled, not in the process of going to the ground. Therefore, the pass was complete. It was fumbled forward out of bounds. It returns to the spot of the fumble. New Orleans ball, first down.
Robert Meacham missed his entire rookie season with a knee injury. Came back last year and averaged over 23 yards per reception. Man, I mean, they've got a little bit of everything in this offense. They've got the home run hitters and Meacham and Henderson, an outstanding tight end and Shockey, great possession receivers and Lance Moore, along with a tight end Thomas. We talked about the running backs, able to run the ball, catch the ball. Man, then you got Colston, who's their star. And a touchdown on the give to Heath Evans. The 7th different player for the Saints, 7, to score a touchdown in this game.
Well, you talk about all the weapons that they have offensively, and then, this is really what you wanted to see. You wanted to see the Saints be able to run the football from that part of the field and run it in for a touchdown, and that's what they did with Heath Evans.
Well, before this game got started, we knew it was big. We didn't think it would be this easy. 48-20, the Saints in front. Fox tonight, the all-new Simpsons 20th Treehouse of Horror, followed by an all-new Cleveland show, Family Guy, and an all-new American Dad. It all starts with an all-new Brothers, 7 Eastern, 6 Central tonight on Fox. Jeremy Shockey had a good start to this game, including a touchdown. He's had a quiet second half.
He's okay with that. You can tell. I mean, he's all smiles, and this was personal for him. And he came out early in the week and talked about it, and then the reporters kept asking him about it as the week moved along, and then he just stopped answering those questions. But there was no doubt that this meant a lot. And in his words earlier in the week, he just felt that he had been disrespected for a guy that had done so much for an organization for 6 years, 4-time Pro Bowler while he was there in New York. And I'll tell you, I know that they feel good about having him here in New Orleans. He was not healthy last year. This year he is, and he's made great contributions. I remember when he first came onto the scene there with New York as a rookie, and I said, this guy may end up being the greatest tight end of all time. He had some injuries, but he was absolutely phenomenal. I don't know that he's ever going to get back to that kind of play, but he's still quite a talent.
Picked up by Hickson. First time they've slowed him down today. You go back to Shockey, and really the unhappiness started when he broke his leg against the Redskins in the 14th game of that 2007 season. Obviously put on IR. His year was over. He wasn't on the team plane going to Phoenix for the Super Bowl. He didn't stay in the team hotel. He wasn't allowed on the sideline for the game. Sat up in a luxury box, and really that's what started what he said later would lead to a bitter taste in his mouth before he was traded the day before training camp last year.
Well, you know, it's worked out for both parties. The Giants have moved on. They've been successful. The Saints are happy to have him, and I know Jeremy's happy to be in New Orleans.
Receiver screen to Hickson did not fool New Orleans defensively. That'll be gain of 2.
I think right now, looking at this game, you got to kind of ask yourself, why is Eli Manning still in the game? You know, when you look at the fact that they've got some tough games coming up. He had the injury. He has the injury to the foot. They were able to get him out of the game last week. Well, you know, this game with 6.5 minutes to play is over. And I'm a little surprised, real surprised actually, that he's still on the field.
Appeared to have any problems with that right heel here today that he injured a couple of weeks ago against Kansas City. That one batted down by Darren Sharper.
Darren Sharper playing up around the line of scrimmage, and then he comes on the blitz, and you know, typically he is playing deep. I mean, that's where he's at his best. That's where he can keep the ball in front of him and go make plays, as we've talked about. But Gregg Williams has said that, you know, there will be times in a given game I want to show Darren Sharper up around the line of scrimmage just to break some tendencies, so future opponents won't think that they can determine what it is we're doing with our coverages just based on where Darren Sharper is going to be.
Third down. Eli fires down the middle, in and then out of the hands of Smith. That looked like Tracy Porter jarred it loose.
Good route down the middle of the field and a good throw. You know, anytime you're throwing the ball down the middle with that coverage and safeties converging, they're going to be contested. You know, so you pretty much anticipate as a receiver that once you catch the ball, you're going to get hit. And Steve Smith, who has done a great job of hanging on to those, wasn't able to there.
Only 2 catches today for Smith, who came in as the NFL's leader in receptions and receiving yards. Under 6 minutes to go, and this Saints offense will get another shot. And I mean, right from the opening possession, when they went down the field, scored a touchdown, over 300 yards of offense in the first half. They're 5 yards away from 500 yards of offense in a game. 7 different Saints have scored touchdowns, and they're just shaking their head, and now Drew Brees is going to get the final 5:57 off.
Well, you kind of got the feeling, at least, you know, that first possession, to go back to that, and the way that they went down the field. Now, there was the penalty that kept the drive alive, but on that second possession, when they went down again, you kind of had the feeling that, wow, the Giants better score a lot of points in this one if they're going to hang in with them.
Mark Brunell in his 17th season takes over at quarterback for Drew Brees. So the final numbers today on Brees, just sensational. He hit on 23 out of 30. At one point, hit on 15 in a row. 369 yards, 4 touchdowns without an interception.
You know, there was a time, you see that 369 yards passing. There was a time that if a quarterback threw for over 300 yards, it was not a good thing. You were going to lose. Coming into this weekend, this year, quarterbacks that threw for 300 yards in a game had won 75% of those games.
Wow. Does that surprise you?
It does not surprise me. What it tells me is that in the last 10 years, this has really become a passing league. You know, and yet we still hear coaches talk about running the football and stopping the run, and you know, those things are important. I'm not saying that they're not, but this league has been, it's not becoming, it has been for the last 10 years a quarterback driven league, and you better be able to throw the football if you're going to win in this league.
back to 1969. And in quite honesty, who would have believed that would happen against this New York defense? I don't think anybody saw that coming. You know, 4 or 5 touchdowns, maybe. 3, likely. 7, no.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't give game balls, but if I was given a game ball, I'd give a game ball to each one of those offensive linemen for the New Orleans Saints. Because to go back to what you just said, Tom, I agree that who would have ever thought, yeah, we know that this is a good Saints offense, but who would have thought 500 yards against the New York Giants? And that defensive front they're special. I mean, Matthias Kiwanuka and Osi Umenyiora and Justin Tuck, I mean, that group they're a hard group to block. And teams have known that for a long time. And Drew Brees, there wasn't a lot of bodies around him today, and that line, I agree, they're a little bit like where the Giants were several years ago, a group that didn't get a lot of attention and recognition. This Saints offensive line, it's about time that they do.
You saw some of those numbers a moment ago. Points allowed in a game by the Giants. Yards allowed in a game by the Giants. Hickson stepping up to field the punt and brings it to midfield. A Fox doubleheader comes your way a week from today. Game 1, a good one, the Vikings and the Steelers. In Game 2, we will be in Dallas for the Falcons and the Cowboys. The Ford Drive 1 Fox NFL Sunday pregame show begins at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific.
You know, I heard earlier today that with the Atlanta Falcons starting tonight against Chicago, their next 4 opponents are against teams that will be coming off a bye week. You know, somewhere there was a scheduling problem in New York when that happened. To give a team 2 weeks to prepare, 4 weeks in a row.
Cut down is Smith by Randall Gay. He was a starter last year after signing as a free agent from New England, as David Carr, who came on to play quite well in relief of Eli Manning last week, is in the game for the first time.
Yeah, this is his 4th game in a row where he's gotten a little playing action.
First down catch made by Hakeem Nicks.
Of course, they liked it better when he was playing the previous 3 games when they were playing with a big lead.
Of course, with this victory today, the Saints will become the unofficial state champion of New York or New Jersey, whichever you prefer. Nicks, a touchdown reception thrown by David Carr. A 37-yard touchdown for Nicks, who's now scored a touchdown in 3 straight games.
Carr hung in there pretty good. He got sandwiched at the end of that play, but laid it out beautifully. Not sure what Tracy Porter was doing. He was just looking inside, and whether he thought he was going to get more help than what he got, but Nicks just ran right by and got himself a touchdown.
That was Usama Young, who is back at safety, and he was taking over late in the game for Darren Sharp. Point after is good. Let's take a peek ahead at what's coming up for the New Orleans Saints. Next week they go to Miami, and then a big divisional game against Atlanta here on the 2nd of November. But I mean, you look at that 5 games in a row outside of Atlanta. Not saying anybody else isn't capable of beating you, but 2 of those games are at home, and 3 you play on the road. Very winnable.
Yeah, I think that they've got to feel, pretty good. They certainly feel good with where they're at right now, and Miami's coming along, and then of course Atlanta within their division, and getting a chance to play them at home. This is a good football team. Every year you come into the season and you kind of wonder who are going to be the good teams, because every year 5 or 6 teams that made the playoffs the year before don't make them, the following year. And the Saints, is one of those teams that was not in the playoffs last year, there's always a little skepticism, but I think now, and even prior to this ball game, you can't deny these guys and what they've done. This is a well coached, and it's a talented ball club.
48-27 now. The Giants' schedule, which up to this point in the season before this game today had been the second easiest schedule in the NFL. We mentioned the last 3 games, which they just rolled over: Tampa Bay, Kansas City, and Oakland. Those 3 teams that combined to win 1 game. Here's the onside kick, and who got it? Looks like the Saints were able to cover it up, and they do. But including today, the next 11 opponents for the Giants are a combined 33-15. They still have to play 3 of the NFL's, well, now 4 unbeaten teams on the road. Today with the Saints, and then they go to Denver and Minnesota when all is said and done. Next week we'll host the defending NFC champion Cardinals.
Well, they got through the part of their schedule that, over the previous 3 weeks that they knew was kind of a soft spot for them. And then starting with this game, the rest of the way is going to be a challenge. And it will be interesting to me to see how they regroup after this loss, which will be a tough loss. Sometimes you lose this bad, you're able to put it behind you a little bit easier than the close ones, But this is a veteran team. It's a veteran head coach. Staff's been together a long time. They've been in big games. They've won big games. This is one of those games you look at and you say, hey, you know what? We weren't very good, and we've got to get better, and we will get better. And I don't question how good this New York team is.
Today's game produced by Richie Science, directed by Rich Russo, our technical producer Joe Stevens. Technical director is Colby Bourgeois. Our audio mixer, Fred Aldis. I think I made his life very tough today. The associate directors, Greg Scopatoni and Derek Manning. Our broadcast associates, Rich Gross and Bentley Elliott. Senior producer of Fox Sports is Bill Brown. And the executive producers at Fox Sports are Ed Gorn and David Hill. Tom Barbary on stats. Scott Snyder, our spotter, up in the booth. And Troy's been fun being with you here week 1, trying to keep the seat warm for Joe Buck while he's off doing the American League Championship Series and then the World Series.
Well, I've enjoyed it, and we've got a couple more weeks. Look forward to that.
Very much.
And Joe got him a good game to call last night.
You've got a lot of good games left in that baseball postseason. And of course, you can see the remainder of the ALCS and the World Series right here on Fox. That'll take us down to the 2-minute warning. The New Orleans Saints are going to go to 5-0. And you said it a moment ago, after going 0-3 under Sean Payton in bye weeks leading up to this year, that schedule, they finally got it right. Not going to say the biggest win in the career of Sean Payton, not when you've won a division championship and taken your team to an NFC championship game in his first year as head coach in 2006. But this certainly would be put on the resume for among the biggest wins. Mark Brunell chased and dropped for a loss by Chase Blackburn. So the Saints will punt it away.
I agree with you as far as this win, and even with Sean Payton coming in and taking him to the NFC Championship game his first year, and a lot was expected certainly then after that season, and this has been a pretty average ball club for the last 2 years, not making it to the playoffs. And this is an important year for Sean Payton and this organization to get back on track and show. And I know that Sean has wanted to try to create an atmosphere around here and create an expectation level to where they are one of those elite teams. They are one of those teams like the New York Giants, like the Philadelphia Eagles, like the New England Patriots, that it's expected that they're going to be going to the playoffs each and every year. And this is a team, again, looking at them, not only that can make it to the playoffs, but this is a team that has been built to really do something special once they get there.
Well, they already had Brees here. They brought in Sharper along with Jabari Greer, and you talked about the defensive coordinator Gregg Williams, and certainly he had a great game plan drawn up against Eli Manning and the Saints for this game. Out of bounds at the 19-yard line. Unbeaten teams remaining in the National Football League. Minnesota, a thriller today, got a field goal with under 2 minutes to beat Baltimore. Brett Favre and the Vikings now 6-0. Denver at 5-0 will play tomorrow in San Diego. Big divisional game there. Indianapolis off this week. And the Saints will go to 5-0 in a minute and 5 seconds. Slides down to the 24. You know, I will have a chance to see the Dallas Cowboys at home next week against the Atlanta Falcons. We brought up Atlanta with a big game later tonight at home against the Chicago Bears. Bears coming off a bye week. And Dallas a bye week this week to get ready for Atlanta. Down the middle of the field. Catch made out to the 45-yard line. 30 seconds left.
Well, you start to look at some of these games that are being played, and you just find out a lot about them. I mean, you mentioned Denver tomorrow night against San Diego. Who would have thought that at this point in the season we'd be talking about San Diego, and I don't say must win, but I mean that is a huge game for the Chargers, who were supposed to just run away with the AFC West.
Misread there between Hickson and Carr. And now a late flag comes in. There's some pushing, shoving, and some jawing going on. O'Hara was right in the middle of it, along with number 97 Jeff Charleston, right at the end of the play.
It comes down low, and I'm not sure when exactly the flag came in. If it came in on O'Hara.
After the play was over, personal foul, unnecessary roughness, offense number 60. 15-yard penalty. It's second down.
Well, that's just Sean O'Hara and trying to protect his quarterback. He didn't see exactly what happened. Charleston comes in late. He was blocked to the ground. O'Hara thinks that he's taking a cheap shot there on David Carr and took exception to it. And then I tell you, as a quarterback, you want to see that. You know, this game, 15 yards doesn't mean anything. But I tell you what, it means a whole lot to that guy, David Carr.
Four down. This will be the final play of the game, more than likely.
50.
And down goes Carr in the arms of Adel. And that ties a ribbon around this one. A very impressive win for Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints. 5-0 for the first time since 1993, and they knocked the Giants out of the unbeatens in the National Football League. Still more to come from the Superdome in a moment. (48-27) Saints roll over the Giants. And here's our Domino's Delivers leaderboard. Well, you could pick practically anybody wearing a Saints uniform today, starting with Drew Brees. 4 touchdown passes. 7 different Saints players scored a touchdown in this game. And the pride of Hofstra, Marcus Colston, 8 catches, 166 yards, and a touchdown. Pam Oliver is standing by with Drew Brees, and we'll hear from the victorious quarterback when we return. You're watching the NFL on Fox. Welcome back to the AT&T postgame show. Alongside Troy Aikman and Pam Oliver, Tom Brenneman in New Orleans. An unbelievable effort today by Drew Brees and the Saints. And Drew is standing by on the field with Pam Oliver. Pam.
Okay, thanks a lot. Drew Brees, boy, oh boy. Did that feel like it looked where you could just do anything you wanted to?
It felt good. You know, made a big emphasis coming off the bye week about coming out and playing well. We hadn't done that our previous 3 years here, so there's a big emphasis on that. Obviously, the game couldn't be any bigger, too, with the undefeated Giants coming to town. And what can I say? Our guys played great, offensively, defensively. It all started up front. Offensive line, incredible job, and we just made the plays.
What helps you to create so many opportunities against, you know, what was a very good defense? I don't know how they're feeling on the plane right back.
Yeah, I think every time we go into a game, we're expecting to score on every possession. And, you know, it's really all about tempo, the tempo we create, and the opportunities that we create for everybody and just kind of getting in that rhythm, and we definitely got in a rhythm today.
Who do you, I don't know, who do you take to dinner? You got 7 different players who scored touchdowns today. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's what we like to do, though. We like to spread it around, get everybody involved, and it's one of those things where each game, you never know whose day it's going to be, and today it was everybody's game.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Pam, thank you. Well, the Saints have been the highest scoring team, points per game wise, on average, 3.5 years now. But Troy, I guess the question maybe many in New York are asking and many here in New Orleans are asking. Are the Saints as good, or are the Giants perhaps not as good as we thought?
Well, the first part of that is yes. The Saints are that good, and I think the Giants are a lot better than what they showed today. I mean, we know that the Giants are going to be a good team. They just ran into one of those days in a hot hand in Drew Brees, and you know he said it best with Pam Oliver that, hey, we expect to score every time we get the ball, and there for a while that's what it looked was going to happen here today, and you know they're playing awfully well.
So the Saints go to 5-0, first time since 1993. The Giants are handed their first loss of the year. We're not through yet from the Superdome. They'll be celebrating on Bourbon Street tonight. Celebration is on for Drew Brees and the Saints, winning 48-27. That's the story on the pro game. The college game, first time all year, the BCS standings released. Florida Gators #1, Alabama 2, Texas after beating Oklahoma 3, and then 2 real surprise, Boise State and Cincinnati, rounding out the top 5. I'd like to remind you, stay with us on Fox later tonight. Brothers beginning at 7 Eastern, 7:30. The Simpsons back-to-back. The Cleveland Show at 8:30. At 9 o'clock, Family Guy and American Dad at 9:30. Don't forget tomorrow afternoon. It'll be Game 3 of the American League Championship Series. The Yankees in front of the Angels. 2-0. That's 4 Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific. Promotional consideration paid for by the following. Well, this day started. Who would remain unbeaten? The answer, the Saints. For Troy Aikman, Pam Oliver, and our entire crew, I'm Tom Brenneman. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next weekend from Dallas. Have a great day.
Fox Sports thanks you for watching this presentation of the National Football League. The NFL is online at www.nfl.com.